I'm Brian Van.
I'm Max Van.
And today we're going to do a race bodywork, a Hotbodies Colorform bodywork install on our 2015 STG Yamaha
R3.
Okay, why did we install race bodywork on this, pal? What was the reason for that?
Because I started riding or racing motorcycles at Grattan Raceway with Sportbike track time.
Kenny's your guy. You rode with him a couple times now, right? So little Van Man's out there riding around, and it's time to get the bike prepped so he can ride the motorcycle out there. We decided to go with the Hotbodies Racing Colorform Bodywork. We wanted to showcase this product here for a couple of reasons. The main one is that in-molded color allows you to skip that paint job step. The paint itself, that's as expensive as the whole bodywork kit. So with that blue in-molded color, in order to get this look, we need number plates, we need decals. And for that, I went to my friends T and Steve Palella, PopShadowDecals.com. They've got number plates. They can print up any kind of sticker that you want. All the stuff you see here, with the exception of the Driven in the Vortex sticker, came from them. Look at that awesome Max Van sticker that T made. Looks beautiful. They use only the best stuff. Definitely catch the number plate too, because the number plates look awesome. This looks like a proper track bike, and it hasn't been painted. You will note there's going to be some minor surface imperfections, little scratches, some little different things here and there. So I want you to understand, I mean, this isn't like, you know, a high-end paint job finished result, but it's a really good finished result that's going to save you money. You can go one step further than I did, and instead of just polishing it up when you're done, I mean, man, I'm just addicted to this stuff now. SC1 and Speed Wax puts a shine on this, great. But you could also use, before you put any decals on it, some rubbing compound. It'll take out those surface scratches and the stuff will look even better. I've actually done that before. There is one other step. High heat Rust-Oleum, baby. Cheap disposable paintbrush. I painted the inside of the bodywork with that. It's a nice matte finish, it's high heat stuff. It looks really good. You just want to scuff it up a little bit. That's a good tip you can use not only on the Colorform, but if you buy a set and you have it painted, you can do that too. It gives you a great finished result. I tried a new format for this install, and it's one that I think is going to make a whole lot more sense. You can clearly see it's already done. When we come back, I'm going to have all the bodywork off the bike, and I'm going to start back here at the tail. I'm going to show you where I drilled every hole. I'm going to show you anything I had to move, relocate, or adjust, and then show you what it takes to get the pieces on the bike to get this finished result. I'm going to say, all in all, how do I feel about the fit? I think it fits good. I've always had good luck with the Hotbodies product. They sell at a fair price. It's the most affordable stuff on the market, but it is quality. You do get a nice finished result. So check out the new format, and feel free to leave any comments or questions you have underneath the video in the comments section. I'll respond to those. Happy to help you out. And I hope you guys see this too, that, yeah, I want to sell you stuff. No doubt about it. We want to sell some stuff, don't we?
Yeah.
But we're also motorcycle riders just like you, and we want to help you fuel your hobby and get that finished result that keeps you riding and makes you happy. Okay, so we're going to start off by installing the tail, right? Remember, when I told you in the beginning of this, we're doing this completely different than we ever have before. I've already done all the work. I fitted the bodywork to the motorcycle. The tail section, I didn't trim anything. I drilled the holes where it attaches to the undertail, which remains on the motorcycle, right where they were dimpled. Turn it over. I drilled out these mounting holes. We're going to use cable ties here. I'll show you that in a minute. And then up here towards the front of the tail, this is where those side panels mount up to. I drilled these, and we're going to use windscreen well nuts there. You can see here the mounting tabs for the back of the tail. I drilled those dead center. When you drill these holes, I want to show you, I want to illustrate here. You can see I've got some room to wiggle that fastener around. Do not drill the hole so it's so tight you can barely get the fastener through. That only makes the job harder. Now, let's talk about the tail itself of the motorcycle and some changes I had to make to get this thing to go on. And this is a little bit challenging. First off, there's a fuse panel right here. That is hooked on the under tray right here. I unhooked that. I fed the harness in through here. I had to loosen up the tray, lower it down, rerouted it, and relocated it here on the other side of the stock battery. I also removed a little under tray that was here, right? Storage compartment, you don't need that. You don't have a rear seat on the bike. There were two fasteners right here that had a large hex head on them. I removed those and I installed cable ties there to secure that. At the end of the day, there's still some bolts here. I've got cable ties here and then two cable ties right back here to hold the under tray in place. That is more than enough to get that done, considering the fact this will help support it. Okay, now we're going to install the tail on the bike. This is a little challenging. It's not horrible, but it's a little challenging. The tolerances are tight. This is a big tail. Remember, we're replacing a multi-piece OEM tail section with a one-piece race tail. So what I want you to do is first dip it over like that. Now we need to be able to clear this relay center, right? So as you push it forward, you want to kind of hold on to this flap and keep it above that relay center. Grab that ear, pull it up over the under tray. Make sure this flap here stays on top. Come to the other side. Grab a hold of the ear on the tail and spread it lightly like that. Just put a little even pressure on it. All the while you're kind of pulling it forward. Over here, get that one to come over. And try to reproduce the same thing over here. Definitely takes a little patience, a little pressure. Come underneath, make sure that we have it on the right side of the undertail, which we do. Okay, now it's just a matter of lifting up on that flap and pulling forward. Make sure you look underneath, you're not hooked up anywhere on the under tray, and then just kind of keep that moving forward, a little forward pressure on it. This is literally this spot right here. This for me was the toughest part of the installation, all things considered. A little upward pressure. Once you get it to about that point, push forward like so. Come back here. Make sure we look good in that under tray area. I'm going to raise the bike and put in those fasteners. Attaching the tail to the stock under tray. I'm using the same fasteners that we did on the OE bodywork. So this is relatively self-explanatory. Like I said, I drilled right on the dimples that Hotbodies provided. This is another area where if you need to, you can make the hole that goes to your undertail just a little bit bigger. And that will help because it'll allow you to wiggle the fastener around just a little bit, right? Manipulate it. You can see this is going relatively easy. Note, I did not put the fasteners in up top before I started this process. There is a reason for that because I need to be able to manipulate the tail, and if I have it bolted down up here or up front, I can't twist it and turn it as I need to. It makes putting those in a lot harder. Okay, now we're going to put in the fasteners back here, and I don't know if you can show this or not, Steve, but yeah, that lined up really good. Super happy with that result. It's important to note too, when you put these fasteners in, don't over torque this. Remember, you're compressing fiberglass, okay? If you reef on these fasteners, all you're gonna do is destroy the bodywork. You don't wanna do that. So just nice even torque on both fasteners. like so. A couple of cable ties are going to be appropriate here. If you've watched me install bodywork before, you'll know that I definitely like to use some cable ties. They're awesome in certain places on the bike where you really don't need to use a fastener. You don't need a bunch of torque. You just need something that's just going to kind of hold on to it a little bit. And this is a perfect example. Okay, we're by the tail, and for me, that's usually one of the toughest parts. Now we're going to move on to the upper. The way the R3 bodywork comes together, we're using a combination of the upper fairing and that tail section to mount these stock side panels. I already have this dialed in, but I'm going to show you how I got there. Before we start drilling here, I do need this installed on the bike, so we're going to first focus on what it takes to get this on the motorcycle before we do too much more with this. First thing is windscreen. There were dimples in the bodywork. I drilled right on all of the dimples. For the upper fairing stay, there were dimples there. I drilled right on the dimples too. The spacing was good, so I went ahead and I drilled all of that stuff. Additionally, right here, the main mount for the bodywork where it bolts the frame using the stock mount, I drilled through the center of that as well. Did that on both sides. Windscreen. We do have a Hotbodies windscreen here. You can use your stock if you want to. I did pull out that little trim panel that came with the R3 on the stock windscreen. I pulled that off the stock screen. I'm going to reuse it here with the Hotbodies, and you can see I used all of the stock well nuts. Get this into position. This is really basic stuff. This is more than anything just to illustrate that it fit really well. You want to get these in here, get them all started first before you really run anything down. But I like to get this mounted up before I go over to the motorcycle. So get these all started, and once I've got them all started, I'll torque them all down with a screwdriver, and then we're going to head over to the bike and get this upper on. Okay, I've got my windscreen on. I'm going to head over to the bike. You can see this is really narrow right here, okay? The best way to get this on is you want to dip this below the fork bottoms, spread it apart a little bit, and push back, kind of all at the same time. Get it into position. On the clutch side of the motorcycle, there's actually a stud that's on there where the bodywork bolts to, so it's nice, kind of hang it on that stud. I'll show you that right now. Right there is the stud. It passes right through the bodywork, and that's going to allow it to hang for a second. If you've watched the project on this particular bike, you might remember that we had installed a set of driven mirror eliminators. You know what? They look super bitchin'. I need to bolt the bodywork up anyways, so why not just go ahead and repurpose those. You could choose to do something different here, different types of fasteners. As long as they're the same size, thread pitch, it's not a problem. Get all your holes lined up before you tighten anything down. This bike still has the stock fairing stay on it. The stock fairing stay includes some metal spacers that pass through a rubber ear cover. Goes over the ear of the fairing stay itself. You want to make sure those are left in place. Okay, got a T-handle now. I'm not going to tighten anything down just yet. What I do want to do is just get everything lined up, get all four of these fasteners started. Before I tighten anything down. In case I need to move the bodywork around a little bit. Going to go ahead and get this bolted up here. Once again, I'm going to leave the bolt loose. We'll go over to the other side of the motorcycle. The fasteners we're going to use here, this is stock stuff. I've got a washer and then that nut. Just go ahead and push the washer in over the top of the stud. Got that 10 mil. Once again, just run it down. We're not going to tighten it up all the way. Now we're going to focus on getting that side panel mounted. Okay, side panels. We need to get these mounted on the bodywork. What I did is I looked at the stock fairings and I saw that we had a rubber grommet right in this area that this Christmas tree clip that's part of that panel had to pass through. So I drilled out the ear on the bodywork. I removed that grommet from the stock bodywork. It's an oblong hole. A unibit is a great asset here. Really like to use unibits when fitting race bodywork. I think they do a better job than a standard drill bit will. So you want to get that into position. Before I drill here, cut a slot here, or drill here, it's best to now begin putting this into position. Find out where it's going to ride, how everything's going to come together. And from there, I used a Sharpie. I marked and drilled the holes. This here was a little more complicated. I kind of marked the ends and I used the unibit to make an oblong hole. Once I've done all that, I then used a windscreen bolt kit. We sell these on the site. This is just a standard Pro Bolt windscreen bolt kit. They were plenty long enough. It's good quality aluminum fasteners, and they came in large packs. There were like 8 fasteners, so you've got plenty of stuff to work with. Drill a hole here that's large enough to accommodate the well nut, and then this is going to be no different than installing a windscreen. Same concept. You want that to be held in there just a little firmly so you're able to get the fastener tight. You can see the oblong hole there. Aesthetically, yeah, okay, right? You could make that look a little bit nicer if you took a little more time, but it's going to be covered up, so I didn't focus too much on that. Now you take the stock panel, dip the locating ear in that oblong hole, push your Christmas tree into the gas tank area, here onto the side, upper fairing, and then we're ready to install the fasteners. You know, you do have the option too of moving things around a little bit if you need to close gaps, stuff like that. So for right now, let's just get them in place. We're not going to tighten everything all the way, but I want to get it in place and then leave it loose enough so we're able to wiggle the bodywork around. Okay, at this point in the process, I have not yet drilled for the deuce fasteners. I want you to pretend like those are not even there right now. We've got our lower fairing. I do love the body line, the styling that they left in place here for the R3. It looks super bitchin'. I will say with my M4 system, I absolutely had to do a little cutout here. And you can see, yeah, maybe I should have got my Dremel out and cleaned that up a little bit. I probably will. To be honest with you, I didn't have it here. It was at home. I was able to do this with just a cutoff wheel. Amazing what that Rust-Oleum does. I brushed that on. It looks great, like we talked about in the beginning of the video. So the first thing I did was slide this into position to understand the relationship between the upper, the lower, and then the exhaust system, to try and find, am I going to need to modify this back here? It was clear pretty early on I was going to have to do that. So I tried to do a few of these things, you know, in the same moment before I completely mounted this. The first thing you want to do is identify where are these fasteners going to go. By having the upper fairing mounted on the motorcycle and butting the lower up, you're able to find the best possible locations for these fasteners. You can look behind then and see, is there going to be a radiator hose or a radiator there that's going to be interfering possibly with these fasteners, the studs of the fasteners. You don't want them rubbing on anything. So before you start drilling holes here, get it up in position, take a look at it. That's what I did. And then from there, and I did have assistance, I'd have somebody hold it. We'd drill through, just nibble the other side, pull it apart, drill through, mount the first fastener, and do that for each one. So one fastener at a time, one hole, one fastener, put it back up, drill the other hole. Once you have one side done, go to the other side and do that. From here, I'm able to then attach the fasteners. So I got the upper and the lower hooked together. Okay, once I had that, I got my adjustment made back here, got this trimmed as needed. There was a stock mount right here, this bracket. It wasn't in the exact right position. I did have to grab a hold of it and bend it a little bit. It wasn't very difficult to do. I then drilled, you can see right on the center right there. And we'll do the same thing we did with the other fasteners. I'm going to get this in there. I'm not going to tighten it up all the way. Just enough so that we've got it in a position we can continue to work with it. This was the kickstand. This was the kickstand from the R3, and the stock configuration has one of the body mounts as part of the kickstand assembly itself. Unable to take that off. It is welded on complete. Also, I wasn't able to get the bodywork to fit with the kickstand on without cutting it off. Remember, now Max is riding this thing on the racetrack. I don't need the kickstand. I kind of wanted to keep it for him, but at the end of the day, once I saw that I was going to have to cut the bodywork, I said, psst, away goes the kickstand. That created two things that needed to be done. One is I had to wire together the kickstand switch. What I did is I cut the stock harness about this far down. I took those two wires, cut them, stripped them, used a shrinkable butt connector, connected those two, shrunk everything very nicely, and then I have the connector plugged back in up here, so it's a very clean job, and I have that all routed in line so we don't have to worry about this switch. Now, remember, the mount. This is why I tell you guys, keep all of your stock stuff. I had this little stock bracket that I was able to bend into position. I mounted it here using one of the oil pan studs. I then opened up the hole just a little bit, and I used, yes, another windscreen well nut. So I'll use a windscreen fastener to mount it. There's really no stress in this position. It's pretty much being carried by the 4 deuce fasteners as well as that mount back there with the Allen bolt on the brake side of the bike. This is kind of superficial, but it really makes for a nice clean job. I would say you don't have to do that, but if you want a good job, take the time, find a mount, maybe get a piece of little steel, aluminum or something from a hardware store, bend it around, get it in a position, you're good to go. Okay, I've hit the point in the project now with the upper and the lower that I feel good about tightening the fasteners up now. Not going to need to really move it around anymore. I'm going to start up here with these side panels. Just get those well nuts snugged up. And then I'll just kind of flow all the way around until I have everything good and snug. Remember, once again, when we come to any of the areas where you're actually compressing the fiberglass, don't go crazy on it. You don't want to hear a bunch of cracking sounds. That is not a positive. Okay, front fender, that's the last piece. I drilled everything on the dimples. I used all of the stock mounting hardware. You've got your rubber grommets, and then you have your top hat spacers that push through here. Back here, you have that welded nut on the bracket. There's a rubber grommet, and then there's a spacer that once you have the rubber grommet in place, you slide over the bracket with the nut, and then you push the spacer in, everything's captive. From here, you just need to get it to go in between the forks, get it into a position, and then I'm reusing all of the stock mounting hardware back here. All right, all the stock fasteners are going to be reused. Once again, don't tighten anything up, just let's get it started. Enough to hold it into position. You can see here the brake line mount is reused, just carried over from the stock to the Hotbodies kit. Over to the other side, same thing. And once you've got all of them in there, you can go ahead and snug it up. Okay, all that we have left now is the seat. Here is a tongue at the leading edge of the seat. It needs to go underneath here so it's held in the position. 2 mounting points, both back here in the subframe. Okay, take the seat. I want you to slide the mounting ears of the seat in like so, right about there, kind of that upper-ish midpoint. Push down on the front of the seat, and I want you to push back and down at the same time. Then pull the seat forward. Lift up on the front of the seat to make sure that it is underneath. You have that tongue underneath the subframe. Push down on the seat. Make sure you have both of your side panels under the seat. Get your fasteners out. And from here you can just go ahead and tighten the seat. What I do like to do is I want to make sure that as I'm tightening, I've got those side panels, they're flexed and they're underneath the edge of the seat, like so, before I tighten anything. Take the T-handle, and you can just go ahead and tighten those up. Okay, there you have it. There is the Hotbodies Colorform Race Bodywork install on the 2015 through 17, and I'm sure a few years after that, Yamaha R3. The Colorform stuff is, like I said before, it's really bitchin'. It comes in molded color. There's no paint on this motorcycle. All that is on this bike to make it look better are those kick-ass decals and number plates from my friends at PopShadow Decals. They do a great job. Highly recommend looking into that. Now, we're gonna just hit that again, Rust-Oleum, high heat. I brushed that on the inside of this bodywork with this brush. It's a kick-ass little trick, and whether you're doing the Colorform stuff or you're doing standard bodywork and you've already had it painted, you put that coat of, that kind of satin black on the inside, it really sets it off nice. It gives it that nice professional look and feel. And then let's not forget this, right? You want your bike to look good. You want your bike to look like my bike looks right now. Maxima SC1 Speed Wax microfiber rags. Wipe this thing down. With this particular kit, I've installed Colorform before. With this one, we wanted to do nothing additional to it. I literally put it on the bike and we put all the PopShadow number plates and decals on it. That's it. What I have done in the past is for some of the surface scratches, which you can't see from 10 feet away, but you get up closer, you can see them. I've used literally rubbing compound, right? A little bit of rubbing compound. We'll take those right out too. That's up to you if you want to put that kind of elbow grease into it, but it does give it that last little bit of finish, because when you get this, there's going to be some light surface scratches in it. Great price. It avoids the paint job totally. And from any track photographer's perspective, you're out there riding this bike, they take a picture of it in the pits, it's going to look absolutely bitchin' for sure. It's going to save you money because you don't have to pay for a paint job. Questions or comments? Like I've said in some of the other videos, right? Yeah, I want to sell you stuff for sure, no doubt about that, but this is also rider to rider. I want to help you get this stuff on your bike and have a great experience on the racetrack, the greatest place on earth. It's better than Disneyland for sure. Leave the comments, leave the questions, and I'll get to them and help you out.